Hello. You are listening to Dads with Startups,
a podcast about a couple of entrepreneurs who put family first.
What up, Kevin?
Howdy, how's it going, John? What's up?
Pretty
What's
good.
going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, let's see. To start off, well, it's been a while since we chatted last,
Yeah.
so I think we have some ground to cover. Last month was soccer season, and I have 3 little kids in recreational soccer, but they're all different ages, so that meant one game or a couple of games. Basically, we had soccer every single night of the week except for Fridays, so very exhausting. And then we made the mistake of signing our kids up for baseball, which started a week before soccer ended. And so now we have baseball every single night of the week, except for Fridays. And I coach.
Fridays are your day off.
Fridays are the day off, and I'm coaching my 9-year-old's team, and it's player pitch, and that's a lot of fun. But, yeah, very busy.
That's cool. Nice. Did you play a lot of baseball growing up? Is that sort of?
I played for a few years, but that was it.
That's fun. I haven't thought about coaching. It always seems like a big commitment, but maybe it's a lot. But I hear people doing it all the time, so it can't be that.
I mean, it is a commitment, right? I mean, you have to be there, and a lot of parents get upset if you're giving their kid a bad season or bad experience, right?
Yeah,
so,
the pressure's on.
But I don't know. It kind of, as my kids have gotten older, at first we kind of rode the wave and didn't do much coaching, but this year I've done a lot more. And just when you got 3 kids in sports, you're going to be doing some coaching. There's no choice. In fact, the city called me and they were like, "We need coaches."
How funny.
Actually, they didn't call me. They called my wife, and she said, "Yeah, John will do it."
Funny.
So here I am.
No vote necessary. Just show up. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. The other things have been going on. I think I mentioned this before, but along the lines of having multiple little kids, we've had a crazy year for sickness. I think the pandemic, last year they were wearing masks and we hardly got sick the whole year. They were wearing masks at school and all of that. This year there have been no masks at school, and it's not just COVID, but it's like every other disease that was put on the back burner last year has come back with a vengeance. And we kind of have this 2-week cycle in our house where every 2 weeks somebody most people get sick with some kind of variety of a cold. Usually.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's really knocks you out with work and all that stuff, and I'm sure them with school.
Yeah, we had the thing going around our neighborhood right now is the stomach bug, some kind of stomach bug. And everybody in the neighborhood has it. And my daughter, our 2-year-old daughter, had it, and it's the worst when they're 2 because they're not old enough to really like run to the toilet.
Yeah, that's
so.
tough.
And she had it for 5 days, and she was sleeping like she's not sleeping in her bed.
Yeah,
we tried to have her. She was sleeping in our bed with me and my wife, and that just wasn't enough room. So I moved to the floor. So I slept on the floor for about a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Hopefully she's doing better now. Jeez.
Yeah, it's better now. Right now we're on the week where we're all healthy. So we'll see what next week
keeping that up.
It has to offer.
That is that's one of the joys of having your kids in school, I guess, is you get to have a variety pack of viruses and so come home all the time. Right now our daughter's not in school. Neither of them are, so we're taking a little break from all that, which is
we just started summer break as well.
Good. Okay, so you'll have some time to focus and work without being coughing all the time. That's great. Cool.
How about you? You're in a new office.
In a new office, yeah. So I'm excited. I found a guy in town who's also kind of like a remote. he's not an entrepreneur, but he's a remote employee for a startup. He's like a software project manager or something like that. Seems like fairly high up in the startup rank. And him and I were talking about, there's no place to work around here. This, Payson being a really small town. I think the only place with internet after like 3 p.m. because the coffee shops all close is McDonald's, and that's just not my, it's not exactly inspiring. So him and I were talking about that, and I literally just looked in the newspaper, the local paper, and there was a big ad that said, office space, and I thought it was strange because I was like, this price is really good. Okay, it can't be real. Turns out it was real, and it turns out it's rented out by the newspaper. So we're basically right above the printing press down below. They showed us that. It's like a big tank that they don't use anymore. And I guess they just have it for storage and stuff. But it's cool. It's kind of like a interesting group of people. They're very chill. And we have this huge place. It's pretty much renovated, and our internet is good. So my hope, it's much better than home. So my hope is that that'll help podcast recordings go a little smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. I mean, we're on the main strip out here. In terms of any kind of updates, we are still working on this endless home renovation to make the bottom unit like a rentable separate unit. And we finally just got our electrical done. I had to contact 5 electricians in the area. 3 came out to look at it. Only 1 actually gave us a quote. They all promised they would give us a quote. They never did. And he was the only one who actually put us in his calendar as well. And we had to wait 2 months for him to come out. And hallelujah, it's done. We've been waiting and waiting. Like, it's been like the one thing that stopped us from able to go forward. So that's exciting.
I feel your pain. We've been waiting. We've been looking for landscapers to do just random work, and we should have started this in January, because now nobody calls me back. The ones who do are like, we're booked out for the whole year.
Wow.
And it's like, nothing's going to happen. So we finally got a guy to build a retaining wall for us and out of boulders, and we slated him for July.
Wow.
So that was like a 6-week lead time, and that was the best lead time I've heard of so far.
Yeah, it's a weird time, and I don't know how long this will last, but it's definitely a service provider's market right now, especially locally.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
good for them. The guy who did our electrical, I appreciate he's clearly. I was listening to the Tropical MBA a few weeks back, and it was like Dan and Ian, if audience members are familiar, they were talking and joking about how, entrepreneurship is hard. If you really want to make a lot of money, be an electrician. And, effectively start up digital entrepreneurship, I should say. But like, I heard that, and then my electrical guy shows up in a brand new Silverado, and I was like,
oh dang,
he's making bank. Good for him.
Those trades, don't go to college, go to trade school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And be reliable. Yeah, no, that's so true. So that's about it. I mean, on the other, family wise, I was just talking to my wife the other day about how stressed out we are, and like everything's so busy. We're doing a bunch of stuff. And as a joke, I said, well, do you think you'd like a dog right now? Because we've been kind of lightly talking about getting a dog. And she laughed and said no. And I laughed. And then the next day I come to rent this office. I walk into their office who we're renting from, and there's this dog. I see this dog, start petting it, and I'm like, oh, this is a great dog. And she said, oh yeah, it's for adoption. And so I was like, wow, this dog is a really good dog. It's like an Australian Shepherd, amazing personality, the perfect height, And so I had to go back and tell my wife, actually, we might have to get a dog. And so she came over today with the kids and met the dog, and she fell in love with the dog. So it might happen. So to add on, not that we need another responsibility in our life, but that may be coming up maybe in the works in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see. We'll see.
We are dog people as well. We have a dog.
Cool. So. How many? Just one right now?
Yeah, we have one. My wife wants. She would have more, but I'm like, I don't want one of those houses that has a bunch of animals in it. It's one animal house.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule. Very wise.
Yeah.
Cool. What's going on with the app, with the SaaS? Any
Oh, let's see. I think if I remember correctly, last time we spoke, I was super stressed. The stress is backing off a little bit.
Yeah, you
I
had a big deadline
I
or something.
I did, yeah, and I got that done. I mean, the stress never ends when you're an entrepreneur, right? But I was talking to some of my colleagues in Tiny Seed,
Mhm.
and one of them said that he recommended a resort in Mexico. He was like, "Hey, if you need a break, you should go stay at this all-inclusive resort in Mexico." And so I started looking it up, and we are coming up on our wedding anniversary, and so I was looking at this trip, and I planned out everything. And in fact, I talked to my mother-in-law about watching our kids while we were gone on certain dates. Thankfully I did not buy the
Hmm.
plane tickets or
Okay.
the reservation. I just kind of, on our anniversary, I told my wife, "Hey, look, I planned this out. We're going to go on this trip. I'm just going to buy the tickets
Nice.
today," And she was like, "Did you know that your passport's expired?"
Oh no.
So
Glad she
that
remembered
was,
that.
we were going to go on, let's see, we were going to go like next week. And so, yeah.
Wow. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad she saved you from. I've actually made that mistake in Mexico. What did I do? I didn't end up in Mexico when I should have. So basically, I had, this was back in my corporate days. I had a friend that had like a timeshare, and we both had time off work. So we basically were going to meet up there. And the day of my flight, I show up without my passport, and I had to
Oh my gosh.
buy a new ticket. He was already there. I had to buy a new ticket. It was like outrageous, and it was a big mess. And I was able to get there, the next day, I think, but it was just definitely not
Yeah.
fun. Now I did have a password that worked. I just forgot it. So I mean, for you, it'd be even harder if you had shown up and like,
So we're gonna look at August. Maybe we can go in
okay.
August, but
Yeah.
and yeah, it's hot in Mexico in August, but we're gonna be on the beach. I think it's okay if it's hot.
Now you could do Puerto Rico, right? That it would be a possibility, I guess. I don't think you need a passport for that, but I'm not sure. Or
we
Fiji,
thought
I don't
about
know.
that, but I had this one resort. I was like,
Yeah,
this is near Cancun. Never been to Cancun, so I was really looking forward to that. So
that sounds fun. Yeah,
we'll see. I was like, I need this trip ASAP,
right.
but
You just need it.
there's
I hear you.
what can we do? So
Yeah. No, that makes
wait
sense.
a couple months.
That sounds good.
But yeah, so I got that in the mail. It's processing, so hopefully I'll get it back in time.
Good.
So let's see what else happened. Civic review has been good. It's just a little bit more of the same old. We have a number of new accounts kind of closing or starting on July 1. I work in the government industry, so all of my clients, I would say almost all of them operate on a fiscal year from July to June. And so they commit to software usually in July. In the spring, they're usually requesting a budget approval for the next year. And so I have a number of accounts that will be launching in July,
Nice.
So
Okay.
we've been able to start the setup phase with a number of those though this month, and I think things are going to get a little bit more calm once we are set up and going.
How are the new employees working out with that setup? They're kind of helping the setup process, right? The onboarding process.
they're doing really great. They're very reliable. They work remotely, kind of a hybrid actually. We meet once a week in person. I probably mentioned this before, but I found that they are, you can kind of get a vibe with remote workers if they're actually working or not. Because I've seen the bad scenarios where you can tell they're not, and these guys are working,
Nice.
and they're doing good work. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
You ask them to track their time?
Yeah, they're just hourly employees.
Okay. Oh, they are. Okay. So they are tracking their time.
Yeah.
Nice.
And let's see. I gave myself a raise for the first time in a really long time. So,
Nice.
um, yeah, it's I don't think I've let's see. I gave myself a raise, a small one, a couple of years ago. Um, but this was a quite a bit more, of a raise. And I'm still underpaying myself. It's kind of like I'm still operating a little bit on ramen profitability.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
hear you.
mean?
Right.
But it's a pretty healthy raise. My wife was pretty happy about it, but we've had some successes and haven't really hired more for that. And
Right.
so I crunched the numbers, and I get really conservative fiscally when I'm doing forecasting, and almost to a fault, because I should probably be
Yeah.
investing a little bit more in growth. Um, but I did all the numbers and I was like, okay, this is sustainable. So yeah, we're
Well,
we're pretty excited about that.
I think that's wise. I mean, I don't know if you've been following much of the financial stuff, but it does seem like we are possibly on the brink of a recession. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for everyone right now, if you're an entrepreneur with any kind of startup or anything like that, or you're just starting out, or even if you're in play, you really do have to be thinking about fiscally being conservative over the next couple of years. So even if you're in an industry like, I think you're in a great industry, which is government, one of the best to be in during such a time. But still, it's always wise to just kind of, project conservatively.
Yeah, government customers are great because they do not shut down when there's a recession.
Right.
However, fiscally, things can get tight if tax revenue is down. But for a platform like mine, it's a necessary tool, and so they would have to really be switching back to paper
Yeah.
processes, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to want to do that,
No.
or to another competitor. But in that case, they're still paying. So I don't see churn happening, but I could see sales slowing a little bit.
And that's fair, right? I think that makes sense because, like, if you think about the cost to even turn off the system would basically force them to be on paper. That would be a costly thing for them. Like you say, switching to
Oh
another
yeah,
competitor would be costly. So you are in a good place, in that sense.
yeah,
That's like the exciting part.
yeah. So, but yeah, when was the last time you gave yourself a raise, or do you guys
Um,
kind of do that
we
every
kind of do
do
that.
you just take some off the top whenever
Yeah,
you have it,
it's a
or
good. We kind
do
of have
you?
like a base pay, and then
Mhm.
we have we haven't actually raised that for a while, and we'll take more or less. Kind of depending on what we're doing. Right now, we're taking actually quite a lot of money out of the business, more than I typically am comfortable with, because we're putting a lot of it back into this personal
The
renovation
house?
project,
Yeah.
which we expect will, once we kind of get up and running with Airbnb, it will pay off. But it's, we're upwards of like now 25 grand, and it's just like, it's
Mhm.
probably not going to end for a little while.
Mhm.
But the hope is, we get that back, and so typically though, it's, typically we just try to take as little as possible, because otherwise you're just paying taxes on that. And so it's,
Yeah.
anything we can keep in the business is generally what we try to do. So,
How do you decide if you guys are, you know, what's your what does it look like when you guys are like, I mean, you're in a special circumstance with the renovations, but you guys are looking at historically a good year. Do you
yeah,
decide, oh, we're just going to take a little bit more this year, or how do you decide to adjust that standard rate that you guys are paying yourself?
it's hard, in a way, because we're sort of, we're just kind of a bit, uh, I guess I would say, like, we're kind of, it depends on the market really. And so like last year was quite good, and so we'll just kind of look at the past year's past year's revenue, and then just kind of project out. But strangely enough, this year we thought it would be, like, for our dental business, our dental course business, we thought it would be quite strong, and for some reason which we don't typically figure out the reason why until the end of the year. It just hasn't been. And so we're actually below where we normally are. So it's stuff like that where we have to kind of just, as we go forward, we have to kind of track it and just see what's going on, and then start to reduce it like in real time. And I think that's one of the things that we're hoping to, with this product Owlish, we're hoping to get more of a regular monthly revenue that we can sort of count on more, because the other one's so seasonal. And so that's the problem with the seasonality, although you're dealing with seasonality as well. But I think you still have that relatively, you have a good sense of whether customers are going to churn or not. And it seems like they're not going to be churning very easily. So that's, so I guess it's just playing it by ear. I think that's one of the frustrations for me about, and one thing that I miss about the corporate life was just knowing this is how much I'm making no matter what. So,
well, we got to afford our yacht payment somehow. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So any other challenges that you have coming up in the next month or two with the product or general in the company?
Yeah, I like that question. Challenges. Well, we're working on training material as a team a little bit, and how to train our users to be more proficient without bothering us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we have a new customer, there's not a lot of training that goes on right now. We usually just jump on a Zoom call and say, okay, I'm going to show you how to use it. And then we let them go. And it's always going to be a high touch platform, but we're trying to reduce that footprint a little bit.
Okay.
And so one of my customer success reps is developing a sort of like a self-serve training module,
Cool.
I guess. She's putting together a bunch of videos, and she's been doing this for a little while. And then the other one, he is working on a series of webinars that we're actually just going to hold on the regular every month. And the webinars will sort of they'll serve as kind of ongoing training for existing customers. We'll send out an announcement to everybody. Hey, we're having a webinar this month. Here's the time, here's the topic, and kind of just dive in deep on certain little situations or features or whatever.
Use cases.
Yeah. And just to help make sure that they get more value, because sometimes we've found that some of our customers, they'll be using Civic Review for several years, and then another part of the city will find other software to do such and such task that Civic Review can do, and they just didn't know it, because they've boxed us into a certain use case. For example, we have business licensing, right, is a popular use case, and we have a customer that uses us for business licensing. They don't know that our platform can be used for building permits as well. And so we lose an opportunity. This happens all the time. So
makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, we're trying to figure out ways to promote that awareness that we can be used for other things as well. So yeah, so the problem was last month, we started this, the beginning of last month, and it kind of just became like on the back burner. And here we are in June, and I'm thinking, I don't know if we'll get these actually done by the end of this month. And so I need to set, the problem is, as a leader, I didn't set deadlines.
Clear deadlines, yeah.
It was just like, go work on this, and so they're working on it in their spare time. But I've learned a lesson where I need to clearly define what is expected. I'm not really saying that I've been disappointed. I didn't even set that deadline for us as a team. So, but yeah. So the takeaway, always set deadlines and clear expectations on when you want things done. Do you use any project management tools for the team, or do you just kind of? We do. We are on ClickUp. Have you heard of ClickUp?
Great. I've keep hearing about it, and my wife is now really into it. She's like our organizational.
She's using it.
Yeah. So she had us on Asana for a long time, which I liked, but it's frustrating to have to jump between that and other apps to get other stuff done. And so I've been hearing lots about ClickUp. How long have you been doing that?
At least a year. And we're paying users, and they are a little bit it's slow sometimes.
Okay.
And I kind of feel like maybe it's just growing pains,
like performance
kind of a new
wise?
startup. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Good to know.
You'll save something, and then it'll take maybe 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden it'll change position because it's been refiltered in your list, and
Okay.
there's some annoyances there, but the features are great.
Cool.
They're really awesome killer features. So
great. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's funny what you mentioned deadlines, because I had one of our employees. I just realized a few months ago that I would give her deadlines and then they would get changed, but no, I didn't know. And I was like, what's going on? Why have I not heard about this project? I thought I put the deadline at the end of the month, and then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's changed by so-and-so. So I had to have a bit of a talking to her about that. But yeah, just because you put a deadline in that doesn't, you really have to, I find that, that's more topical. You really need to drive the message home directly and say, here's why this deadline matters, and here's why this will affect the next project, et cetera. And that does seem to make a difference with.
Yeah, I think there is difference between deadlines and expectations, and that's probably why I used both words there unintentionally. But
Makes sense.
A deadline is just a deadline, and sometimes project management software, it's like, oh yeah, that's the date, but it's okay if we miss it. Where the expectation is, hey guys, we need this to be done by this date, because
Yep, exactly. That's cool. All right. Well, that should be interesting to hear how that goes. I think the webinar series sounds like a great plan. And do you have your documentation? I may have asked this before, but do you have your documentation in a portal of some kind, or how do your customers get access to that?
We have a growing knowledge base on Intercom, hosted through Intercom.
Okay.
So
gotcha. Yeah. All right. And they are using that effective. You feel like it's being well used, or?
It's always surprising the stats that I see on how often different articles are being read. So I may have mentioned this before, but we did a survey. I did a survey a year and a half ago, and one of the questions was, what do you, what kinds of improvements do you want to see? The official question was, actually, you have 10 points and you can distribute those points towards new features. How would you allocate these points? And they could say, like, I want 5 points towards a faster app and 2 points towards better customer service, or whatever that is. So I had a pretty good number of people asking for self-serve help articles. And I, up to that point, thought, we're very personal, and we will talk to you on the phone and give you one-to-one, help. And I thought that was our kind of a little bit of a competitive advantage as a small company. But I was surprised to see that a lot of people don't want to talk to a human. They just want to figure it out themselves. And we didn't have any material at that time. So now we have about 20 articles. So it's not a lot more. But now that I have these customer success reps in their spare time, that is kind of what they work on. And, this training material that the one is working on, a lot of the material is doubling up as these help articles, in the knowledge base. Okay. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay. Yeah, I was noticing with our app business, once we implemented, we were kind of doing the same thing. We were just answering questions. We would often, be able to copy and paste responses because they were so similar. But when we implemented a knowledge base ticket system that had search built into the ticket request form, that actually did reduce a lot. I was surprised it's kind of an annoying feature as a customer, but at the same time, sometimes it really does solve their problem, so that they search for their question beforehand. So that's been cool. In terms of updates that I have a bunch of little stuff. I'll start with my challenge. I had a pretty big, rough week last week with the app. So we hired a new assistant to our team for marketing purposes. And I, in my infinite wisdom, way back in the day, had put together, installed this team password sharing system that we could all share, like basically our assistants and us, we could all
like
share
a LastPass
logins.
or
Exactly, like a
one password.
LastPass. So I found a pretty solid looking open source project, installed it on a server, set it up, everything was great. And I thought, well, it's related to my company. It's for Owlish. I'll just put that on on the Owlish subdomain as a Owlish subdomain. So everything's great. And then I invite her to this system, and it's sending out emails like to her, like, okay, well, verify your login, etc. Or maybe it was an invite email, and then it's sending them, unbeknownst to me, it's sending them to me and my wife, who are the admins in that system. It keeps sending these emails, and she just keeps having trouble. She keeps like, I don't know why it's working. It keeps saying, keeps clicking something that keeps generating these emails. Suddenly, I'm looking at my domain, and it turns bright red. And it says, Google has determined that this site is doing some malicious phishing. And I go to my app, which is a subdomain, and that's red too. Every single subdomain of this domain got turned red. I had no idea why. This is not because I had any connection to this. And I'm like, what is going on? And then because our courses are embedded into different people's websites, I start getting emails from my customers that their whole website has turned red. Not just like their course is down, but their entire site is down.
Oh no.
And I'm freaking out. I'm just like, this is a nightmare. No idea why this is happening. It's something related to Google. I start like, I submit like a form to have them review it, but they're like, be careful, make sure there's really no phishing. And at this point, I don't know if it is phishing or not. I assume like, well, maybe I've been hacked. I'm doing everything I can. So I'm up all night that night trying to figure this out. And finally the next day I get on some forums and it just kind of occurs to me, someone says, oh, this happened to me because we were sending internal emails from ourselves to ourselves into our own Gmail account, and Gmail's AI mistook it for phishing emails and blamed the domain of our own domain. And I was able, and so anyway, I was like, oh, I wonder if this could be. And I was like, there's no way, but it turned out it was the case. I was able to get on to Gmail support, and thank God that I pay for Gmail, like business Gmail, because that was the only channel to Google's support team that would actually talk to me like instantly versus, having to submit some form to some, random VA somewhere that doesn't, for 2 weeks. Because people were saying it took 3 weeks or whatever to get this removed. And thankfully, due to them, and they escalated it, they were able to get this. They were able to say, okay, yeah, this came from your system. These were emails. Clearly, they don't even look suspicious to a human, but they were able to see, okay, yeah. And you did. And my mistake was effectively not authorizing the server to send emails on behalf of the domain, the DMARC. And I just didn't think about it when I was setting it up. And so anyway, this was quite a scare, I have to say, because I was like, in those 24 hours, I'm thinking like, if they don't get this working in 3 weeks, I'm going to lose all of our customers. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose marketing. Like it destroyed like our whole marketing sites down, our apps down. It was a very existential crisis for the business. So anyway, that was my fun a couple days last week. And I will say that it really shook me. I've been doing this stuff for, I feel like 10 or more years, doing websites for 20 years. I've never had this happen where I've done this to myself to this extent, so it's quite interesting. I think it's kind of a recognition that Google's AI is great, but it's also quite dangerous if it makes a mistake, and also a good lesson on protecting your domain in any way, shape, or form. So I've moved all of those kind of like little project sites off of the domain. I'm going to try to set up the app domain separate from the main domain now. I'm going to be sending, utilizing the reply to feature of emails that are transactional versus just sending them out from the app domain so that they go to a different place. I'm going to do everything I can to kind of like prevent this from happening again. But it was quite a scary day just because I felt so bad for my customers who I was hurting their business too. So anyway,
isn't it crazy how vulnerable we are? I could lose sleep if I start thinking about like all the things that could just go wrong and it could just bury me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's scary.
I hear you. No, it can be, it usually happens on a whim and you're just like, whoa, what's going on? So good lesson for those who are listening, just, protect your domain, separate things out, I guess the idea is try to be anti-fragile if you can, by taking technical steps to become so. So we'll see how that goes. Also, I'm thinking I will probably try to, so what we have is like a script, that we give people that put on their website that points to our app. And I'm going to try to look into seeing if we can host that script in a separate domain so that even if our main app interface goes down, their core sites will still continue to talk to our app and work because it's on a separate domain. So that's complicated though. So
well, last time we talked, I think you were trying to get into app stores, like marketplaces. How's that going?
So we've talked to Duda. This is a company that mostly is kind of well known for white label websites. Their main customers, paying customers, are agencies, and then the agencies create, sites for their customers. And so it's gotten it seems like a pretty big network of sites. I think they're in the 27 million. And we've been in talks with them. So my hope is that we've started those talks. We submitted a proposal to be added to their app store, and we're going to work out a few of the details next week and then start building that. So it's going to be a lot, of customization to our app, and there's kind of sacrifices we'll need to make in terms of like, a bit of user experience and stuff, but I'm hoping it'll be good. And I don't know what will happen. I don't know if it's going to be a success or a dud in terms of our being on that platform. Maybe a lot of wasted time. Maybe it'll be spectacular. And I just come to the peace with the fact that I just don't know until I try. So it'll be a little bit of a project, but we'll see what happens. So that's
Are you on WordPress as well already?
We integrate with it, and I have not created a plugin for their WordPress directory. And the reason for that is just my experience with plugins. I sell a lot of plugins already, and my experience on their directory is that it has added no marketing value. If anything, it took it away. Like if I have a plugin on their directory, it will get better SEO traction than my website. And I just haven't found it to be. And then sometimes the review system on there is not great. The whole system's not great. So we're kind of taking more of an SEO approach with WordPress. But we are looking at Shopify, and that could be another one that could work down the road. I think what we'll do is start with Duda, kind of work out the kinks there, and then start the Shopify side of things.
Cool.
So that's that. I'm looking for, we've had, an increase in number of signups per day, which is great for the free account.
Yeah, you have, I never really heard how the self signup was going.
Yeah.
So well?
It's going well. People are signing up a lot more now. We're starting to see, I just put together, I don't know if you've tried this, but Google Data Studio. Have you heard of that product?
No.
It's a free product, kind of like Google Docs esque, and you can connect it to any data source. And I connected it to our app, MySQL database, and I was able to generate some pretty snazzy KPIs in like less than a day. And I'm really liking that. So it's giving us like a snapshot of the last 28 days of like signups and all that stuff. So check it out if you want to kind of build a quick and easy dashboard without having to code it yourself.
Nice.
So that's going well. We're looking for a new full-time developer, and that's its own kind of ordeal. And then we're probably going to be removing the free account in the next. That's kind of a next project, is removing the free account and just moving to a credit card trial to start with. Just because I had the
I was going to
realization.
ask if you have. So you have freemium, but you're going to remove it.
Yeah, I think so. I was just like thinking. We were talking the other day about it, and it was just like, we don't have any funding. We're basically, one company is funding the other company at this point, and the roadway, while we have a fairly long roadway, it's just not that wide, and
Right.
it would be nicer to have it wider. And so I can't think of any other real way without getting funding I really want to build features, and it's just like, well, I'd love to have a free plan. That's always been my hope, but my thought is maybe we just start without it for now, do the trial, and then down the road at some point we can relaunch a free plan.
Yeah.
For growth and stuff.
So with your early adopters right now, how many are on the freemium percentage wise, freemium versus
yeah, that's a good question. I'd say we're pretty early. I'd say 5 to 10% have upgraded, and so we're
okay.
I don't know the exact amount right now, but like it's okay. It's not unlike what I've had in the plugin world. I was doing freemium too, and it was like, 1 out of every, maybe 5 out of 100. I'm not sure, that 1 out of 20 or something like that. So it's on track, but I think it would be better. I think we'd have better revenue if we just started to charge for it. So anyway, some of them we're playing around with at this point. See how that goes.
How much do you have any metrics on like actual usage, like active users? Or are these people on the freemium plan right now? Are they actually using it? Do they have
that's a good question. That was something that I was using that data studio to kind of figure out. And we have like a few very strong users where we're looking at their learners, and then we're looking at their learner login. Basically, that's sort of one of the metrics. We can see how much they're actually using this and how much those courses are doing work for them. And some are like taking up all the share of it. It's like they've got tons of people going there. It's all that stuff. And then there's a lot of people in the middle that just probably created a course and didn't really get around to doing it. So I think with courses, that's an issue, is that you have people that have a lot of aspirational, like, oh, I'd love to start a course. And I talked to a guy the other day at a coffee shop like that. It's just like, they'll start these kind of activities. They'll start the course. And if it's on something like ours where it's free, there's really not much pressure to do much. It's like, oh, great, I did something today. So I think, I think the good news is we're seeing for the active users, we're seeing good adoption, but there's a lot of people that are just not doing much with it. And that's what I want to kind of change a little bit. Not that it, it's costing us too much in terms of money or anything like that. I mean, but it's just the, bit of an inspiration to get people to make a decision. Wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, those are some of my updates. Can't think of much else right now.
Well, I thought I would ask you what your thoughts are on the economy before we wrap up.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of a discussion in Tiny Seed about that, and people are slightly spooked, right? And the good thing is that Tiny Seed companies are pretty much bootstrapped up to that point. And most of us know how to run a profitable company before a net negative, running in the red, all the time type of a company. And so
true,
there isn't a lot of concern about, oh no, now we got to get profitable. I mean, I don't know if you've read in the news, a lot of these startups that have been relying on just multiple rounds of funding, they're laying off people in droves right now because they've got to get to profitability. Their investors are spooked. They don't want to give more money, which is it's just the way it is right now. And I have complete respect for these companies who have raised venture capital and now they're getting profitable. Those are the smart ones. Who are doing it all for the right reasons, right? And there's a time and a place for venture capital, and that is if you want to grow super fast, but I think the ones who are getting to profitability now and have a path for that, if they can reach that probably in the next 12 months, they're going to be fine. You know what I mean? But we'll see if how many companies don't do that and they just keep trying to, not make any changes or whatever, and see what happens with them. So companies like, who was in the headlines, Fast. Have you heard of Fast?
I have.
One, what is it called? One-step checkout or whatever solution. And I think their numbers are crazy. Something like 50,000 in revenue per month, but their burn rate is like in the millions per month. Something wild. And so then they had to just shut down when they couldn't raise any more money.
I heard about that.
So
they raised millions of dollars from what I understand, and they're making like 500,000 in revenue or some ridiculously low amount.
Yeah, super low. And so but in Tiny Seed we talked about that a little bit, but most people are profitable. I mean, the Civic Review for one thing is default alive profitable, and
that's awesome.
As long as I don't see a lot of churn, I'm going to be okay. And I think most of us are in that boat. I would guess that most people in the microconf realm as well, bootstrappers in general, you kind of have to be profitable to be a bootstrapper. It's right. The name of the game, right? So, but what are your like? Are you spooked? Or are you scared? What are you thinking?
I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic, to be honest. I've been thinking a lot about this these days, and I think I'm really grateful, like you're saying, to be a bootstrapper right now, because I don't have anyone who's breathing down my neck that's like, where's my money? We're not going to give you any more money. And I haven't been foolishly encouraged to grow at all costs. And we're just starting out. And so we're funding our own path. So I'm my own, I'm my own VC effectively, which I love, which is good and bad. I don't have, the funds that I would normally, but I'm optimistic in the sense, I remember in the Great Recession, I was a web developer. I think you may have done that as well during that time. I don't know if you were doing web development, but I'm not sure if you recall this, but I recalled kind of a surge of interest as people got laid off. They would start scrambling to build another business. And so there was a bit of a surge of people requesting websites to be created at the time. And now that didn't last the whole recession, but it kind of was a nice, healthy stretch over that first initial year and a half or so. And my hope is that if, first, my hope is not that people suffer or get laid off, but if they are, I would guess that there's going to be another surge for people who are on the development side of things or web development side of things. And that's sort of related to courses. That's sort of related to, they're going to make a website, they might build some courses and stuff like that, or et cetera. So my hope is that would be something personally on our side that can help us get through this period. And the other thing too, which I think applies to a lot of startups right now that are bootstrapping, is if you can make it through this recession, if there is one, and we assume that there's something, if you can make it through this downturn, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of your competitors that are either going to be taking a hit or just not make it through. So I think the ones that can survive this are going to be better off at the end. And that's the part that I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about, is that, it's for those who have decided to, and I don't want to be like people made bad choices, but there was this hysterical money's free, there's no consequences attitude for the past 3 to 4 years, especially in Silicon Valley, where people just were part of this, like, there's no problem, just take as much money as you can. And then they're also spending as much money as they can. So their burn rate was crazy. And so for those who have, I don't know, there's some, I think of like, is it old, biblical stories of like storing the grains, during the famines and stuff like that. And there's something about that traditional way of doing the making the right decisions for the long run kind of attitude that I think are now coming into play. And if you've been partying up like it's 1999 the whole time. It's like, come on, like this is now a time to really buckle down. So I'm thinking it could be good for some, and of course it'll be hard for a lot of people, and I don't like to see people suffer, of course, but for those of us who are bootstrapping, I'm cautiously optimistic, I'd say.
Yeah, now that you mention the Great Recession, I remember there was an influx of college attendance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, that might be a good thing
True.
for you if you're building a learning management system.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too.
That could pay off for you.
About that. So, yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, it should be an interesting time for sure. And I would say it sounds like it's cool to be. The Tiny Seed group sounds like a very solid. It's always been a very solid kind of community, and it's always been a solid as an investment vehicle. It's always been in that kind of like practical, solid, maybe just strategic and thoughtful group of folks. So I think it attracts those kind of folks. So I feel, I think that's great.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we should wrap it up. We've been talking for a while.
Sounds good. Well, we'll look forward to the next time.
All right. Peace out, Kevin.
All right. Have a great week. Take care.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more by visiting dadswithstartups.com. Please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/Dads with Startups. Until next time.